When it comes to the financial challenge, the number one challenge for American consumers is really all about inflation. And so, my question to you is this: do you have a strategy or plan in place to address inflation? Because the number one thing that inflation does, it takes the resources that we have, the money that we have, and we're going to purchase less, and it's going to cost us more, whether it's gas, whether it's milk, whether it's eggs, whatever it happens to be, the tabletop issues. And so during this particular episode, I'm going to talk to you about the fact that inflation is really playing havoc for everyone. And I want you to understand it a lot better. So what's going to happen? We're going to explore the essential strategies you need to survive and thrive in an inflationary economy, from budgeting and saving to investing and wealth building. Excuse me. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, this video will help you with the knowledge and tools you need to stay ahead of the inflation curve and achieve your long term financial goals. So, what's your money survival plan? You're going to really learn a lot from this particular process. And I know it's something that's going to really help you. Excuse me. So, what I want to talk about to start out, remember, it's all about having some different strategies to navigate inflation, whether it's how we save money, how we spend money, we budget. There are just so many different factors that are involved. And this is what I want to share with you because it's so imperative that all of us really address this. And we know that this is the number one issue when it comes to the current election that's taking place. So, in order to tackle inflation head on, you need to understand what's really happening. So, simply put, inflation means your money is losing purchasing power. It doesn't go as far as it used to. And we can all agree to this. We know that during COVID, that this did not, it started in that process. And now, even though the Federal Reserve is reducing the interest rate, we know that that's not enough right now. And in all likelihood, the price of goods and services will not go down that much. Price of gas, that can be adjusted. I used to work for mobile oil companies, so there are ways in which to make adjustment for that. But when it comes to food, the necessity like food, medical care, different things such as that, the things that people really need as opposed to want, those things have to be addressed. And of course, things don't go as far as they used to as far as money, and it affects everything, as I stated, from your groceries to your rent. And if left unchecked, it can derail your financial future. But knowing this is the first step to controlling it. So I'm going to provide you with some different strategies in which you can use that's going to help you and your family as we go along this process. And one of the things that we're going to look at is going to be budget adjustments and spending awareness. Now, when it comes to budget adjustments and spending awareness, it really comes down to be an issue of how we handle our budget. By having a good budget in place, it helps us to really be more specific and pay close attention to exactly what we're purchasing. And again, it's about purchasing the needs as opposed to the wants. And then there's that comparison shopping, dropping subscriptions that we no longer need and not purchasing on the spur of the moment. But what some people say is to take 24 hours to think about a purchase before you make one. And are you going to use a credit card or cash? Are you going to pull some money from another source to do it? Hopefully, not the emergency fund, because you want to keep that one going. You want to remain consistent in that. And then being just aware of what we're spending things on. And that always makes a difference as well. So, this the foundation, of course, of financial freedom is budgeting. And a smart budget is the first defense against inflation, of course. And you want to focus on essential expenses and different and eliminate unnecessary spending, as I mentioned earlier, and start by reviewing your monthly expenses and prioritizing needs over wants. So keep track of where inflation is hitting you and the hardest, which is groceries, utilities, and even healthcare. So you want to track your spending closely every month to spot any shifts caused by inflation. And if necessary, consider discretionary expenses to keep you and your expenses under control. And remember, it's not about cutting back on everything because typically we're not out there just overspending, but we want to really pay close attention to it and redirecting the money towards things that truly matter for your financial stability, such as if you're going to use the avalanche approach to paying bills, then you will find the debt that has the highest amount of interest rate. And the one that has the highest rate or interest rate is the one that you're going to save the most money on because you'll be paying less interest and more on the principal to eventually get that particular debt down. And we also want to make sure that we pay the minimum amount for the bills with the lower interest rates. But overall, we're going to save a lot more time with this. And so this is definitely something that you want to consider. And we all know that there are times when we overspend, and we can typically know by just looking at the receipts that we have. If you have a little folder that you put your receipts in, you'll be able to track everything that way and then go back and track it against your bank account and in that expense when you're putting your budget together. But the key is to have a budget, because if you don't have a budget, that's going to make it where you're keeping everything in your head, and given the busy days that we have, you'll forget about it. The next thing you know, you've overspent. And so we want to get away from that. And then the next thing we want to consider is how to build an emergency fund. This is very important. And the reason why a budget is very important is primarily because having this emergency fund is primarily because it helps you to cut your expenses. You want to stay disciplined with it. And again, it really acts as a sounding board for you saving more money and ultimately using those funds to invest. And we want to do that wisely. And just as we may overspend and create more debt, we also don't want to put so much money in our investments that we don't pay our utilities and our insurance and homeowners association, etc. And then you want to find a way to make more money by getting that side hustle or starting a little small business on the side in addition to as an employee. And then you always want to live below your means. And by living below your means, primarily means that you are addressing the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is your long term future. Where do you want that to be? Do you want it to be that you look 20, 30, 40 years down the road and you don't have anything? So you want to look at the long run, because that represents an abundance mindset, a growth mindset, whereas a scarcity mindset means you're only looking at the short term. You're going to live with the way things are. You're not willing to learn new things to help you to offset all of the overspending and not having a budget and just playing things loose, which will cause you a lot of mental health problems as well. Not only does a person can go through depression, but they can also go through anxiety, restlessness, and other mental health issues, which is playing havoc on a lot of people today. And so we definitely want to have that emergency fund all set up, and I think it's very important that we do that. And the other thing about it is that high interest savings account are great options, and they won't entirely outpace inflation, but they'll help keep you from dipping into investments if unexpected expenses come up. And so the thing you want to do is just ensure that you have an emergency fund, because you never know when your car may break down or you have a health issue at the hospital. And so you want to make sure that you stay in that number. And one of the things that I also want you to really look at is from the long run is looking at investing. Now, everyone is not familiar with investing, but it is, you set it up right, If you can invest that can outpace inflation, then you're going to always be ahead. And that's not a guarantee, but it is at least gives you an opportunity to do things. And what does this say here? What is investing? It's an act of committing money or capital to an endeavor, a business, project, real estate, with the expectation of obtaining an additional income or profits. So that's another good option, whereas you may not have thought about it before. But when you invest, you don't want to invest to lose. So you have to put some risk in there because there's a risk with everything, but you want to at least think it through and you want to put yourself in a position whereby you're going to come out ahead. And so when you add your income from your regular job of employment, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're going to add in addition to what you already have, and that's always a good thing. So investing is always a wonderful thing to do. And one of the things that I think is important to understand is the key is to diversify your investments to balance the risk and reward, and then look for assets that have historically kept pace with or outpaced inflation. And so this is really a great way to go. And then you can also consider, if you're new to investing, consider broad market index funds or ETFs. These are relatively low risk options that offer steady growth over time. But for those who are more experienced, you can look into assets such as real estate, dividend paying stocks, which is always good, or even inflation protected securities. So many of you are already doing this, but this is just a reminder for you. And again, I apologize. The seasons has changed, a little cold. And so the next thing I want to talk about on the list of ways to um, overcome and put strategies in place to combat inflation is to look at wealth building itself. And so wealth building, it's really a long-term type of process or strategy, but it includes the foundation of setting up a bank account, personal bank account, business bank account, savings account. You can set up mutual funds, and then you can look at investing, of course, by looking at some stocks, some bonds, real estate, as we mentioned before, and it can be fractional. It doesn't have to be purchasing a house or apartment, but it also can be just buying a certain number of stock and diversifying that. It could be looking at grocery stores. It could be looking at medical centers, apartment complexes, and also homes. You can now put a fractional amount on a home, let's say a minimum of $1,000, and you'll get a little bit off of it, but it'll be more than what you'll get from a bank. And then you want to look at the growth. Now, this is where you start building. You've gotten yourself into a position where you're debt free, then you're saving, then you're taking that saving and you invest in it. And then after you invest it, then you're starting to put it into different things, maybe like a whole life insurance policy, or you could potentially looking at that real estate and putting it into a estate plan. So you want to get a revocable living trust. You want to get a living will. Want to look at an end of life program, at different ways in which you can offset going to probate court, but rather what you can do is look at having the living revocable trust. Um, Put that such that your family won't have to go to court over that because it'll save a lot of money and you can turn it around a lot quicker than if you have to go in with a will and have to go to court. That could take months, and it takes a bit of money from the attorneys as well. But with a probate, it provides that privacy and then a quick turnaround because all the bequests of the person who have departed or died, their wishes are left out and then it's passed on to a trustee from the grantor, the person who sets it up, and then on to the inheritance of whoever is left behind. And then you want to look at preservation. In other words, you want to be in a position where when you uh, started looking at a person who is end of life, then they want to ensure that they have the debts paid off. They want to ensure that taxes any debts that owe, as I mentioned before. That's very important. And then you want to look at managing the finances and looking at the risk mitigation, because a lot of times when a person has departed, that's when the real things started happening. If people are not aware of what they should do. And then lastly, you want to look at the distribution. If a person wants to leave some money to a nonprofit, to a university, to a museum, whatever it happens to be, that's always a good thing in the community. And I think that that goes a long way in terms of really helping make things better. So, in conclusion, inflation is not a sexy word. In fact, inflation ranks right up there with taxes. People really don't want to talk about it, but it's a part of life. It's a fact of life, and so we have to talk about it, and we have to do something about it. And so, in conclusion, I want to just kind of review real quick and look at the fact that the number one financial challenge people are facing is inflation, and it's real, and everybody is feeling it right now. You go to the grocery store, you go to a restaurant, you almost go anywhere, and everything, the price of everything is very high. And so it's a matter of making really good decisions during this time. And then you want to set up a budget. You want to set up a budget such that you know what your relationship with money is. And there's no doubt about it. But as a part of your money survival plan, to make a hedge against uh, beating inflation, you always want to have a budget in place that you understand and you know where every penny goes. And you, again, you'll know this by the receipts that you have and what you're purchasing. And then the next thing is to start looking at how one can start putting together their list in terms of money and addressing the issues that are there. And the particular issues that are there is to find a way to build maintain an emergency fund, because an emergency fund is just that. It's kind of what we call, when I was in DOD, we call it the rainy day fund. So this is a fund that's out there. All other things operate as normal, but we have this rainy day fund, in which for us personally, it is an emergency fund, and we have it set up, let's say 3, 6, 9 months of savings or investments of some sort. And that acts as a hedge against emergency, something that just comes up in life. Things always come up. And next, I talked about investing, and investing is very important, and it's just a matter of understanding it. It's a lot less difficult today than it used to be. There used to be this shroud of mystery about the stock market, but not anymore. In fact, some online banks directly provide you with different investing sources where you can purchase fractions of stock. Let's say if you like a certain brand product, just as an example, if you like Nike or Adidas, then you would purchase a certain fractional amount of that stock. And even though it's not thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but at least it's something that you're investing in and you're getting at least a small amount of return. And then the last aspect is that wealth building. Wealth building can offset inflation primarily because there are instruments out there that can help do that. Whole life insurance policy, everything in there is tax free. It can be left as part of an inheritance, and it builds up cash value over time. And you can also don't have to go to the bank for loan. You can actually get a loan against that particular life insurance policy. So when we have these type of things at our disposal, it just makes things so much better. And then last but not least, I really want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/the at symbol Wealth Academy podcast. And you'll be able to listen to a lot of in depth and hard hitting financial issues of the day. And go there, recommend it to your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And also, I have it on the podcast here on its own website, which is www.wealthacademypodcast.com. And on there, you'll be able to listen to close to 290 episodes. But on my YouTube channel, I'm getting closer to about 20 in there because it's a new channel. And so get out there and support the podcast. And I really appreciate all of your assistance. And I know that again, inflation is a reality for all of us now. And we know that after the election, things will be different, primarily because the Federal Reserve Board and everything will probably turn over with the new administration anyway. And so it's something to at least to consider. And if you haven't thought about it before, I'm providing it now. My time is up, and I thank you for yours. Again, the name is Paul Lawrence Vann. I'm a certified financial manager and have been for decades now. And if you would like to have any questions or comments, just post them right here in the comments section on the YouTube channel. Have a great day, and thank you so much. Take care for now. Goodbye.